Imagine a city where, eating your breakfast in under an hour isn't just considered rushed. It's actually considered a mild insult to society.
Right, like you're missing the whole point of the morning.
Exactly. Picture yourself sitting at this bustling, crowded round table. You're surrounded by the clinking of porcelain teacups. There's the roar of 100 different conversations happening at once. And your meal. It's going to take at least 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, at least. It's a real commitment.
Yeah. And it requires this secret, centuries old hand language just to navigate the table politely. Plus, you are about to eat dumplings that demand exactly 13 precise microscopic folds just to hold together.
It's basically structural engineering, but for breakfast.
It really is. Today, we're not just looking at a menu. We're giving you the blueprint for how a 2,000-year-old culinary tradition could actually, well, completely cure your modern morning burnout. So welcome to today's deep dive.
Super excited for this one.
Me too. If you are looking to taste China and learn English at the same time, you are in the right place. Today we're traveling to Guangzhou, the historical flower city, to unpack the highly refined, absolutely delicious world of morning tea.
You know, we treat breakfast in the modern world as like a biological chore. It's just something you have to get through.
Oh, totally. You grab a piece of burnt toast, pour some scalding coffee into a travel mug, and you're just, eating hunched over the steering wheel in traffic.
Right. It's a pit stop. It's functional fuel designed for maximum efficiency, but like minimum enjoyment. But the culture we are examining today, it operates on the exact opposite frequency.
It really does.
It uses food as an anchor to literally force society to slow down.
And the term for this is yamcha, which literally translates to drink tea. But if you go to Guangzhou and you invite someone to yamcha, you are not just getting a quick cup of Earl Grey.
No, definitely not. You're signing up for an event.
Yeah, you are inviting them to a massive, sprawling feast of dim sum. And dim sum, for those who might not know, refers to these incredibly intricate, small plates of food. But before we get to all the amazing dumplings, we really have to talk about the mindset first.
The mindset is everything here.
There's this local philosophy mentioned in our sources that just completely stops you in your tracks. It's called tancha.
Tancha. Yeah, it translates beautifully to enjoying the clouds and the breeze.
I just love that phrase so much.
It's so poetic, right? But think about the physical posture required to actually do that. You cannot be staring at your phone or checking your watch if you are genuinely enjoying the clouds and the breeze.
Right, you have to be looking up. You have to be present.
Exactly. It requires a completely leisurely approach to life. And the context of where this happens is just crucial. I mean, Guangzhou has been this massive, bustling international trading port for centuries.
It's a major, major economic hub.
Right. It's a wealthy, incredibly fast-paced metropolis. Yet this busy city collectively agrees to start the day with an unhurried, totally relaxed social ritual.
I do have a hard time buying this as a universal thing, though. I mean, you're describing a massive, hyper-industrialized city.
Sure.
Taking 3 hours on a Tuesday morning to sip tea and eat delicate pastries, well, that sounds like a luxury reserved exclusively for, like, wealthy merchants or retirees. How can a working class city treat a 3 hour breakfast as a normal, everyday reality?
That is the brilliant paradox of Guangzhou's tea house culture, actually. Historically, yeah, you're right. It started with wealthy merchants along the Silk Road who they needed a relaxed environment to negotiate trade deals.
Okay, that makes sense. Business meetings over tea.
Exactly. But over the centuries, the tea house became the ultimate great equalizer in society. It evolved from a luxury into a baseline requirement for social connection.
So everyone goes.
Everyone goes. Today, you will see business executives making high-stakes deals at one table, and then at the very next table, literally 2 feet away, there's a group of grandfathers reading the morning newspaper and catching up on neighborhood gossip.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Taking your time here isn't a luxury. It's considered a fundamental requirement for maintaining your mental health and your ties to your community. You don't have to be wealthy to demand a beautiful, slow morning.
That is just such a profound shift in perspective.
Mm.
You're basically prioritizing human connection over economic efficiency. Right at the start of the day, you sit down, you pour the tea, and you set this very relaxed stage.
And then the food carts start rolling out.
Yes, the carts and the culinary standards we are talking about here are just staggering. We are looking at what are traditionally called the four heavenly kings of dim sum.
These dishes, they are the foundational pillars of Cantonese cuisine. They're small plates, but they require immense technical mastery from the chefs.
Let's start with the absolute heavyweight champion, the hargao, the shrimp dumpling.
Oh, this classic.
We tend to think of dumplings as, simple comfort food, a little dough, a little filling, toss in some boiling water. But a proper hargao is the ultimate test of a chef's skill.
It's the dish that makes or breaks a dim sum chef.
Right. Because the wrapper has to be completely translucent, meaning you can literally see the pink shrimp inside, but it cannot tear when you pick it up with your chopsticks. And it has to have these tiny, intricate folds, traditionally exactly 13 pleats.
And those 13 pleats, they're not just there to look pretty. There's actual structural physics at play here.
Wait, really? It's not just decorative.
No, not at all. The dough for hargao is made from a mix of wheat starch and tapioca starch. That's what makes it stretchy and clear, but it also makes it incredibly fragile when you expose it to high heat.
Okay, so what happens in the steamer?
Well, when the dumpling goes into the bamboo steamer, the raw shrimp inside cooks and releases moisture. That creates steam pressure inside the wrapper. If the wrapper was just a flat, tight sheet of dough,
It would just burst open like a water balloon.
exactly like a balloon.
Oh, wow. So the pleats act like an accordion.
Exactly like an accordion or like a corrugated roof. The folds provide extra surface area and structural integrity. They allow that super fragile tapioca wrapper to expand and stretch as the shrimp steams without tearing.
That is brilliant.
It really is. But it requires immense dexterity from the chef to fold those pleats into a piece of dough that is essentially the thickness of a piece of paper.
So the chef is basically doing microengineering by hand thousands of times a morning.
Thousands of times.
And the payoff is the texture. The source material talks about how when you bite into it, the shrimp isn't just cooked. The texture is supposed to be succulent.
Right. And succulent means it's incredibly juicy and tender.
Yeah, it literally snaps and pops against your teeth. It is a total textural explosion.
And once your palate experiences that bright, clean snap of the hargao, you naturally start to crave something richer and more savory. Which brings us to the second heavenly king, the simai.
Ah, see my. These are the open-faced dumplings. They look like little golden cups, and they're filled with this really dense mixture of pork, shrimp, and sometimes mushrooms.
And they always have that pop of color on top.
Right, they are almost always topped with a tiny bright orange dot of crab roe. Now, the word used to describe simai in the sources is aesthetic, which just means very pleasing to the eye.
Yes, the visual presentation is absolutely paramount here.
Okay, here's what I want to push back again. Calling a pork dumpling aesthetic feels like a bit of a stretch for, everyday food.
Why do you say that?
Well, we usually reserve that kind of language for a multi-course tasting menu at a super expensive fine dining restaurant or maybe an art gallery. We are talking about thousands of dumplings being wheeled around a noisy dining room on metal carts. How can mass-produced breakfast food be treated as high art?
Because the aesthetic isn't an afterthought. Historically, it was the marketing.
The marketing? How so?
Think about the environment of a traditional Guangzhou tea house 100 years ago. There were no printed menus. Waiters walked through massive, crowded, incredibly noisy rooms carrying trays or pushing carts. The food literally had to sell itself from 10 feet away. The visual design of the dim sum was a signaling mechanism.
Ah, so it acts like an advertisement.
Precisely. That bright orange dot of crab roe on top of the siumai isn't just a garnish, it's a visual billboard cutting through the steam of the dining room. It's signaling to the customer, hey, I am fresh, I am luxurious, and I was made with really high quality ingredients.
That makes total sense.
The high standard of everyday Cantonese cuisine proves that culinary artistry isn't just restricted to quiet, expensive restaurants. Beauty is a daily expectation.
I love that. You are judging street-level food by the same exact criteria you would use to judge a sculpture. So you have the structural snap of the hargao, and you have the rich aesthetic density of the siumai. But a 3-hour meal is a marathon. You need to reset the palate.
Which is where the third heavenly king comes in, the chung fun, or steamed rice noodle rolls.
Oh, these are fantastic.
Yeah, after the intense, heavy flavors of the pork and the shrimp, your mouth just needs a completely different textural experience.
And the word always associated with chung fun is silky. They're these long, flat, shimmering white noodles, usually rolled loosely around some beef or shrimp, and then they're just drenched in sweet soy sauce.
And the mechanism of making chung fun is entirely different from making a dumpling. It's fascinating. You take a liquid rice batter and pour it over a taut piece of breathable cloth that's stretched over boiling water.
Over a cloth.
Yeah. The steam cooks the batter instantly into a microscopically thin sheet, and then the chef takes a special scraper and swiftly rolls the sheet right off the cloth.
That sounds incredibly delicate. I feel like it would rip so easily.
It is incredibly delicate. If the batter is even slightly too thick, it becomes gummy and unpleasant. If it's too thin, it just falls apart entirely. When it's done perfectly, the noodle has no chew to it at all. None. It's entirely about the glide. It is designed to slide down your throat effortlessly. It provides this cooling, silky contrast that prepares you for the final stages of the meal.
The dessert round, because you cannot leave a yamcha table without the final heavenly king, the egg tart.
And we also have to mention the BBQ pork buns, the char siu bao. They serve a very similar function at the end of the meal.
Both of these dishes walk this incredible tightrope between sweet and savory. The egg tart is this flaky, buttery pastry crust, sometimes with dozens of microscopic layers holding a warm custard.
Yeah.
But it isn't cloying or overly sugary.
No, it's very balanced.
Exactly. It's a highly sophisticated flavor profile.
Mm.
And it's the same with the BBQ prink buns. You have this soft, cloud-like, snowy white dough, and it cracks open to reveal this dark red, incredibly rich roasted meat that has just a hint of honey sweetness.
Just look at the sheer variety of culinary techniques happening simultaneously in the kitchen to produce this one meal. You have the microengineering of the pleated hargao, the open-faced steaming of the siumai, the cloth-pulled mastery of the chung fun, and the complex baking of the egg tarts. They all arrive at your table to create this continuous rolling symphony of textures.
It's an orchestra. And while this entire culinary symphony is happening, an equally complex social performance is happening at the table itself. Because, well, a dining room filled with hundreds of people eating for 3 hours is incredibly loud.
It's deafening sometimes.
You can't just shout across the room. You need a system.
You need a nonverbal language. And this is perhaps the most fascinating part of Yamcha culture to me. It operates on this silent, centuries-old system of communication that's designed entirely around keeping the social harmony intact.
Let's paint the picture for our listeners. You are sitting at the table, your mouth is completely full of a succulent shrimp dumpling, and the friend sitting across from you is in the middle of telling a fantastic, really animated story.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Suddenly, the person sitting next to you notices your teacup is empty, so they pick up the heavy ceramic pot and pour you fresh, hot tea.
No, You are presented with a real social dilemma. It's deeply ingrained in the culture to express gratitude when someone serves you, right?
Right.
But you cannot say thank you because your mouth is full of food. And you absolutely cannot say thank you out loud because it would interrupt the friend who is telling that great story.
It is a modern brunch tragedy. You want to be polite, but you really don't want to ruin the flow of conversation at the table. So what do? You do the two-finger tap.
Yeah, the two-finger tap. You gently tap your index and middle fingers on the table surface right next to your teacup. Tap, tap.
To someone who has never seen this before, it just looks like you are idly drumming your fingers or, playing a tiny invisible piano. But it is actually an incredibly thoughtful, highly specific gesture of thanks.
It really is.
It's essentially the 18th century equivalent of an iPhone read receipt. It's a low friction way to acknowledge a transaction, the pouring of the tea, without interrupting the main channel of communication.
And the origin of this specific finger tapping gesture is one of the greatest legends in Chinese culinary history. It dates all the way back to the Qing dynasty, specifically to Emperor Qianlong.
I'm so glad we are getting into this story. The stakes are just so high.
They really are. So, Emperor Qianlong was famous for going on these inspection tours of his empire, but he knew that if he traveled as the emperor, his officials would just put on a fake show for him. Everyone would be on their absolute best behavior.
So he wouldn't see the real reality of the city.
Exactly. So, he frequently traveled incognito. He dressed in the simple robes of a common merchant and brought only a few trusted servants with him who were also in disguise.
They are essentially doing an undercover boss operation in the 1700s.
That's exactly what it is. One day, the emperor and his servants stop at this busy, crowded tea house in southern China. They sit down at a table. Now, the emperor, perhaps forgetting his role, or maybe just really enjoying the freedom of being a normal person for a minute, grabs the teapot and pours tea for his servant.
Oh, wow. This is a catastrophic breach of protocol. In the imperial court, if the emperor pours you tea, you do not just say thanks. You throw yourself on the floor, put your forehead to the ground, and bow in ultimate submission. You kowtow.
Right. So the servant is suddenly terrified. His instinct is to drop to his knees and kowtow to the emperor immediately. But if he does that in the middle of a crowded tea house, he blows their cover entirely.
Yeah, every assassin, official, and spy in the room will immediately know the emperor is sitting at that table.
But he also can't just sit there and quietly sip the tea. Ignoring a gesture from the emperor could literally cost him his head. The servant is trapped in an impossible social puzzle.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Exactly. So, in a moment of pure improvisational genius, the servant bends his index and middle fingers, places the knuckles on the table, and taps them.
His fingers become tiny little legs.
Yes. The two fingers mimic the action of a person kneeling and bowing down. He is symbolically kowtowing to the emperor on the table, expressing his profound gratitude and subservience.
That's so clever.
Right. While to the rest of the tea house, it just looks like a man tapping his hand. The emperor saw this, understood the brilliance of the gesture, and was highly amused by it.
It is the ultimate cultural life hack. A gesture born out of a literal life or death situation with an undercover emperor becomes the standard way we politely thank our aunt for pouring oolong tea on a Sunday morning.
It's amazing how history filters down like that.
And that isn't the only silent mechanism get into the table.
No, the tea house has engineered out almost all the friction of dining. Take the teapot trick, for example.
Right. You're drinking tea for 3 hours. Eventually, the pot runs dry. In a typical Western restaurant, you have to crane your neck, try to make eye contact with a busy waiter, maybe awkwardly raise your hand and ask for more hot water.
Which completely disrupts your conversation, and it stresses out the staff.
Exactly. So what is the Yamcha solution?
You simply slide the ceramic lid of the teapot back so it rests half open on the rim, or you just flip the lid upside down, and you go right back to your conversation.
It is a brilliant piece of user experience design.
Mm.
I mean, the waiter is scanning a room of 50 tables. They don't need to listen for someone calling their name. They just look for the open lid. It is a clear visual cue.
They walk over with a giant kettle of boiling water, refill your pot, and walk away. You never even have to break eye contact with the person you are talking to.
If we synthesize all of these elements, the complex physics of the dumpling wrappers, the visual signaling of the garnishes, the invisible piano tap, the open teapot lid, it really paints a very specific picture of a society.
It really does. It shows a culture that values profound gratitude, aesthetic beauty, and above all else, the uninterrupted flow of human connection.
Everything is designed to reduce stress. The entire architecture of the meal is built to protect your peace.
Which brings us directly back to that burnt toast and the travel mug in the car from earlier. The contrast couldn't be starker.
Not at all.
We have engineered our modern mornings to prioritize moving on to the next task as quickly as possible. But the Yamcha culture engineered its mornings to make sure you stay exactly where you are for as long as possible.
It makes you realize that being rushed isn't just an unfortunate side effect of modern life. It is a choice we are actively making. We are choosing the drive-through over the tea house.
And that choice has very real consequences on our nervous systems and our communities.
So, what do we do with this blueprint? Let's bring this deep dive to a close. Today, through the lens of our Taste China Learn English framework, we discovered that Guangzhou's dim sum culture is so much more than a breakfast menu.
It is an absolute masterclass in flavor, structural culinary physics, and everyday aesthetics.
We learned why a dumpling needs 13 microscopic pleats to survive the steamer, and how a cloth-pulled noodle achieves its silky glide. We uncovered the life or death origin story of the two-finger tap, and how a culture uses silent gratitude to protect the flow of a good story.
It serves as a vital reminder that the environment and the manner in which we eat fundamentally dictates the quality of the connection we have with the people sitting right across the table from us.
So here's a challenge for you, listening right now. Tomorrow morning, try to find a way to incorporate just a fraction of that leisurely Yamcha energy into your own routine. Maybe sit down at a real table for 10 extra minutes.
Put the phone in another room.
Yeah, put the phone away, look out the window, and try, just for a moment, to enjoy the clouds and the breeze. And the next time someone pours water into your glass at a restaurant, try the two-finger tap. See how it feels to express silent gratitude.
And as you go about your day, consider this final thought. If the architecture of our meals reflects our deepest cultural priorities, what do our rushed, solitary steering wheel breakfasts say about who we have become?
That's a deep question.
If we manage to replace just one fast food morning a week with an hour of truly unhurried connection, no watches, no screens, just pure conversation, how might our relationships and our own well-being fundamentally transform?
That is a phenomenal question to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden language of the tea table, please hit that like button. Share this with someone you'd love to spend 3 hours eating dumplings with, and subscribe to our channel for more explorations. Take your time today, savor your food, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.